For this story to make sense, I should explain that I have a hearing disability. I'm hard of hearing, and because of that, there are certain things in life I know I'll never fully understand. Even now, I still think back to this experience and wonder what really happened, and what I should have done differently. This took place about a year ago. The holiday season had just ended, and life was finally slowing down after all the traveling and family gatherings. I live in a small suburban neighborhood near a forest in southern Quebec. It's a quiet area where most people know each other, which I honestly prefer. It gives the place a calm, welcoming feeling. During winter, I like to take my dog Monty on walks through the nearby forest. He's a mix between a Rottweiler and a Husky, which makes him perfect for long walks and runs. The forest has several trails, and none of them are difficult, even for people who aren't hikers. I remember this happening in the afternoon. I had just finished a late lunch and decided to burn off the calories by taking Monty for a walk. Like always, he went crazy with excitement as soon as we turned the corner toward the forest entrance. It was cold for a February day, and fresh snow had fallen overnight, covering the trails like a blank white canvas. As usual, I let Monty off his leash so he could run freely. I noticed yellow spots in the snow and several boot prints, which told me other people had already walked their dogs earlier that day. Most people prefer to go before noon since the sun sets around 4 p.m., so I didn't expect to see anyone else out there. After about 30 minutes of walking, we reached a fork in the trail. One path had clear footprints, but the other looked untouched. Feeling a little adventurous, I decided to take the untouched trail. I knew the area well and felt confident about where it led. The trail opened into a clearing, which worked out perfectly because I wanted to test the binoculars I got for Christmas and look for local birds. As I scanned the tree line, something strange caught my attention. In the distance, I noticed a blue tarp and what looked like a makeshift shelter. I was curious, but it was starting to get dark, and I didn't want to risk staying out too long. I turned around and started heading back with Monty. He ran ahead like usual, but something about his behavior felt different. He was more alert than normal and kept stopping to sniff the ground. I looked down at the trail and froze. There were footprints in the snow much larger than mine. Out of confusion, I compared them to my own boots. They were clearly different. That didn't make sense to me. There were no other forks on the trail, which meant whoever made those prints had passed me at some point. I assumed it happened while I was distracted with my binoculars. That explanation felt logical at the time, so I tried not to overthink it. By then, it was much darker, though I could still see well enough to walk. Suddenly, Monty stopped and began barking non-stop. I turned around, and that's when I saw him. A man stood only a few feet away from me. He looked about 6'4", wearing dark snow pants and a white camouflage jacket. He didn't move toward me. He just stood there with his hands in his pockets. I didn't recognize him from the neighborhood, so I assumed he was a hiker or someone from out of town. He appeared to be talking to me, but I couldn't understand him. It was too dark to read his lips, and I couldn't tell if he was speaking English or French. I felt stupid for not bringing my phone. I tried to explain that I was hard of hearing and that it was getting late. I made it home around 4:30 p.m., and by then it was completely dark. I followed my normal nighttime routine and didn't think much about the encounter. But later that night, something happened that still scares me. I woke up to Monty licking my hand, which he usually does in the morning. I checked my phone and saw it was 3:00 a.m. I also noticed a message from my neighbor asking if everything was okay. That confused me at first. The message said Monty had been barking non-stop. I looked up and realized Monty wasn't in my room anymore. I went downstairs and found him barking wildly at the patio door. My vision was blurry as I approached, but then the motion sensor light turned on. My heart dropped. The man from the forest was standing in my backyard. I didn't waste a second. I stepped away from the door and immediately texted 911. I ran upstairs with Monty and grabbed the machete I kept under my bed. I'm a short woman with martial arts training, but I know the best way to survive a fight is to avoid one completely. I sat in my bedroom with Monty, guarding the door and waiting for the police. My heart was pounding. Suddenly, Monty jumped up and began barking aggressively at the door. I could see a shadow moving beneath it. The man was right outside. Those moments felt endless. I expected the door handle to turn or the door to break open at any second, but it never happened. When the police arrived, they searched the property. The patio door was completely shattered, but nothing inside was taken. The back gate was open, leading into the forest. The police believed the man escaped that way. I told them about the shelter I had seen in the woods earlier. I stayed with a family friend for a few days while the door was repaired. I never heard back from the police after that. Since then, I only walked my dog on public roads. I try not to think too much about what could have happened, but sometimes I still do.